Hello, welcome on in everybody. The Blunderbuss is on the PTR. We can finally get on there and test it. And as promised, I have made a video guide detailing all of the different active skills and the passives that the Blunderbuss has. If you want to see some written information on the Blunderbuss, you can find it on my website, pvpnewworld.com. If you guys enjoy the video, consider hitting that like button or leave a comment. It really helps out with the algorithm. And without further ado, let's take a look at that weapon. So let's start off with the basic attack of the Blunderbuss. It shoots a 6-pellet buckshot that does 23% damage per pellet. The Blunderbuss can also hold 2 shots per cartridge, which allows you to do basically a double shot before you have to reload. The Blunderbuss also has a maximum distance on its range of what looks like around 15 or 16 meters. If you try to shoot something that's further away from that, the Blunderbuss will do no damage to it. On top of it, the buckshot isn't 100% accurate and becomes less accurate the further away you are from your target. And finally, the Blunderbuss scales off of strength and intelligence, primarily strength and secondarily intelligence, making it the only strength intelligence weapon in the game at the moment. The nice thing about this attribute scaling is that you can actually pair the Blunderbuss with any weapon in the game outside of the life staff because they have either a strength or intelligence scaling on them. So now let's take a look at the active skills of the Blunderbuss. Starting off in the containment tree, the first ability that we got is Net Shot. You basically fire a net from your weapon that has a pretty decent radius, and if you hit anything with it, it will snare it by 40% for 2.5 seconds. On top of it, when you use the net shot, it actually launches your character backwards, giving you the added utility of mobility on top of the snare. As you put more points into net shot, you can upgrade to fast hands so that the cooldown is reduced by 20% if you hit a target. The apparatus upgrade increases the slow to a 50% slow that degrades to normal over 5 seconds. And finally, the last upgrade, Barbed Netting, allows net shot to instead deal 5% damage on the initial shot and then have a 35% weapon damage, bleed, or poison on the opponent for 3 seconds. I can see this ability being very good for PvP, not only helping you kite and get away from opponents, but also being a good option for an offensive snare too. The next ability we've got is Claw Shot. Now, Claw Shot shoots a claw out of your gun. If it hits an opponent, it will deal 40% weapon damage, inflict root for 1 second, and then pull you towards them. The in and out Claw Shot upgrade restores 8 stamina every second for 10 seconds after you use Claw Shot. With a 20-second total cooldown on this ability, that is a massive amount of stamina sustain, especially if you're going to put a refreshing build together on it. The Combat Readiness perk allows you to reduce the cooldown of Claw Shot by 2% for each pellet that you land on an opponent, and if you land the Claw Shot, you get 1 loaded ammunition for free. If you already have 2 shots loaded into your gun, it grants you a 3rd shot instead. The first combo that comes to mind is a Claw Shot into just 3 rapid light attacks on your opponent, thanks to that additional load. In short, I can see Claw Shot being really useful for closing the distance to your opponent, but also being a massive stamina sustain skill for pretty much any build you want to play with the Blunderbuss. On the downside, this ability doesn't seem to be functioning very well on the PTR. The pull can be a little buggy sometimes, so I'd definitely love to see that fixed before it goes live. Next up is the Azoth Shrapnel Blast. This is basically a horizontal fan blast that shoots 5 projectiles, each one dealing 58% weapon damage, and each consecutive hit on the target will deal 15% less damage than the previous hit. Its maximum range can be upgraded to 16 meters, and after you use it, you fire 4 additional pellets from your next shot. Each individual hit with this ability or from your Blunderbuss primary shots will reduce the cooldown by 1.5%. And finally, the last upgrade of this skill, you fire a bomb down the center of the fan, and this bomb will implant itself in the ground and explode, dealing 100% weapon damage in a 3-meter radius after a 0.5 second delay. So this adds a bit of a dual function to this skill, making it not only a shotgun blast, but adding that large AoE blast right next to you when you use it. This seems like a very interesting offensive skill that's maybe a little bit more centralized around hitting a target that's already locked down or using it to counter someone that's coming towards you. Now, moving on to the Chaos Tree, the first ability that we have is the Splitting Grenade. You shoot a grenade out of the Blunderbuss that bounces up to 4 times and will explode after 1.5 seconds. When it explodes, it shoots into 3 mini grenades that they themselves will explode for 85% weapon damage each in a 3-meter area. Each successful hit against the same target will deal 40% less base damage. I think they put this in here so that people don't just get blown up by a massive grenade combo. The grenades deal 25% increased damage to targets greater than 50% health, and any grenade that hits the opponent will give you a 20% haste for 3 seconds, and hitting multiple targets will refresh the duration when they're hit. And finally, the last upgrade to Splitting Grenade allows it to have a burn, dealing 10% weapon damage to the target for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times on hit. This is an interesting AoE focus skill that I think will still retain good single target burst, and I really like the added utility of haste on this skill too. But for the most part, I think that this will be used for the AoE pressure that it can provide. The next ability we've got is Mortar Charge. You load the Blunderbuss with heavy canisters, which for the next 15 seconds or 3 shots will no longer shoot multiple pellets, but instead shoot a mortar shell that explodes when it hits, dealing 126% weapon damage in a 3-meter area. If the target is 10 meters or more away from the mortar, they will take 30% increased damage. As you upgrade it, each hit with the mortar will grant you 7 stamina back. With each shot fired, you gain a burst of 50% movement speed, which decays in power over 3 seconds. And then finally, the last upgrade, you gain an extra canister, which allows you to shoot up to 4 shots, and on top of it, each shot that hits in a row will increase the damage of the next shot by 10% to a max of 30% damage. This is definitely a unique skill for the Blunderbuss, giving it a unique functionality that no other ranged weapon really has outside of maybe the Fire Staff's Fireball. I can see this being very useful for trying to lob shots over a wall, which you normally wouldn't be able to shoot shots over. The downside to using the mortar, however, is that it locks you into the aim down sight mortar animation. This makes you very slow and doesn't allow you to really take advantage of the freedom passive that you get. If you exit out of the mortar stance early, it consumes all of the shots that you have too, so there's no exiting out of this stance to reposition and then firing the rest of your shells. And for the last active skill we've got, Blast Shot. You shoot a large AoE radius of wind out of the Blunderbuss that knocks down any target that's immediately in front of you and deals 70% weapon damage. Blast Shot can be upgraded to apply a 20% rend to targets hit by the ability. And finally, the AoE field left behind after you shoot Blast Shot will give you and your allies a 25% movement speed bonus while in the area for an 8-second duration. This seems like an incredibly good utility skill for the Blunderbuss. Not only do you have access to a very fast and easy to use AoE knockdown, but that AoE field that gives you mobility, absolutely amazing, not only for solo, but for group play as well. Blast Shot, however, has quite a long cooldown, likely to offset the usefulness that this skill is going to have in just general PvP combat. And just a quick look at the passives of the containment tree. Blunderbuss has access to stamina recovery through here, as well as a bit of a speed boost when reloading, also giving a damage boost when reloading too, which is pretty interesting. But I do like the focus on utility and mobility that the passives seem to have. There's quite a few passives in the Chaos Tree, but they seem to be focused mostly around cooldown reduction, increasing your outgoing damage, and it even has a passive that allows you to load a 3rd shot. In general, I see a lot of passives on the Blunderbuss for cooldown reduction, as well as active parts of skills that have cooldown reduction too, so I think that we can expect to see quite a bit of high skill uptime on the Blunderbuss once people get used to the proper playstyle. So, there you guys go. Hopefully that answers all the questions you had about the Blunderbuss. Of course, I will be doing some PvP with this bad boy on the PTR. I'll be putting together a build that I'll share with you guys as soon as I can. In short though, I am very excited to try out this weapon. When the Void Gauntlet came out, it wasn't really my style, but the Blunderbuss being a mobility-based weapon, yeah, this is definitely one that I'm going to be trying, pairing with the Rapier likely to begin with. I would love to hear what you guys think about this new weapon, whether you think it's good or bad, and maybe some overpowered pairings that you can think of for it. If you guys enjoyed this content and you want to catch some live stuff from me, you can always give me a follow on Twitch. Give me a follow on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with what's going on with me. I also post my stream times there for you guys too. Again, you can find a written breakdown of the Blunderbuss on my website, pvpnewworld.com. There's lots of other New World information and build guides there for you too. And I also feature the New World Top 5 battles, as well as featured New World builds. If you have an awesome fight or an awesome build that you want to share, you can send it to Kristofer at pvpnewworld.com. This show is sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers. They can give you better ping to your favorite games, especially if you have bad ping to start. They're free to try. There's a link down below in the description for you guys. And last but not least, a massive thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show for all this time. Thank you everybody just for tuning in and watching today. I hope you guys are excited to try out the new weapon. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. As always, have a great night everyone, and I'll see you next time.